All right, if we're all set, I will call to order the New Hartford Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting dated June 2nd, 2026 at exactly 7 p.m. If you are able, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item on our agenda is order of business. I do not have any changes to the order of business. I don't know. Jeff, do you have anything? No. Does anybody have any changes to the order of business? Any agenda items you'd like to add to our already full agenda?
Sorry,
No,
just
okay.
the CABE newsletter.
CABE newsletter?
That's part of like where they had advanced.
So that could be added under 2/3 vote under reports if someone would like to make a motion. All right, motion by John. A second? Second by Frank to add the CABE report under reports. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. All right, we'll add item C under reports for the CABE report out by Kirby. Thank you. Any other changes or additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item C, communication to the Board of Education. I do not have any communication. I'm sorry, I do. I don't have, do I have it in the packet? Okay, so I do have a communication to the Board of Education that came from Alicia Kennerson regarding the pre-K program. I did respond to that, and then also received a response from Alicia that I responded to as well, which I think I responded to on Friday, was the last response to her. That's separate. Okay. Next item is public comment. Would anybody like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we will move on to item D on our agenda, the superintendent's report. Turn it over to Jeff.
Thank you so much, Chairman Kleps. Good evening, everybody. So happy to have everyone here today. We have a litany of celebrations as we close out the school year on this wonderful June the 2nd with beautiful weather outside. We're going to start off by recognizing our two 41st annual CAPS LCSA student representatives and nominations for New Hartford Public Schools. They are Blake Bingham and Cadence Wallace. Blake is with us tonight, and Cadence was not able to attend, but I'd like to read a little bit about each one of them and then have a presentation of a small little gift, token of our appreciation. They had already received an award at the LCA. That's okay. So they have that at home, and we have an additional little gift that we'd like to provide them, and also take a picture of the full board with our students that were so well recognized for Litchfield County Superintendent's Award. So we'll start with Cadence. Cadence was awarded the LCSA award because of her academic prowess, her leadership service to school community. Cadence is a dancer, a gymnast, and ice skater. She is a detailed cake decorator who won a trophy for cake decorating at the fair. She is a strong reader and mathematician. She participates in math Olympiads and talented and gifted program. Cadence hopes to be an archaeologist who gains special access to places like the Great Pyramids. Cadence lives with her dog, Bunny, sisters, mom, and dad. Cadence spends time on her grandpa's farm and loves the sheep who follow her around the barn. Congratulations to Cadence. Blake Bingham, also awarded the Litchfield County Superintendent's Award for academic prowess, leadership, and service to the school community. Blake lives with his sister, mom, dad, dog, and 2 cats. Blake plays soccer, basketball, and skis. Blake gardens with his dad and made spicy salsa with his homegrown habaneros. Blake enjoys math challenges and is in math Olympiads and a talented and gifted program. Blake enjoys hiking and exploring the woods. He has traveled to Italy, where he tried new foods like gelato. Blake may become an astronomer to further explore his interest in space, such as the northern lights and the solar eclipse. Let's give a hand to our LCSA award winners. Blake, if you don't mind coming on up. Got a small token of appreciation for you, sir. Board members, yep. Just watch the wires. So board members, can you join me? I'll give you an update. Be surrounded by a lot of good people there. Everybody in? All right.
Say, how can I say? You're a little hidden. Move that way a little bit.
Oh, Frank.
There you go.
Thank you, sir. You got it. Congratulations. That would work out. Yes. Such an honor recognizing our wonderful students, and we'll continue that. We're going to continue to recognize our wonderful students with our student representatives in just a short moment. I'd like to just pivot real quickly because I know that I have a very special guest in our audience today. Mrs. Elise Yost is here, who has bittersweetly announced her retirement after serving for 24 years here at New Hartford Public Schools. And I'd like to turn the mic over to Dr. Kelly Carroll, who'd like to say a few words to Mrs. Yost.
Elise has made an incredible difference in the lives of countless students, families, and her colleagues. She always has a calm presence no matter what surprises each day may bring. She's always patient, up for a good laugh, and focused on what each child needs most. When I think about her classroom, I think about a place where students feel safe, comfortable, and understood. Elise is a really cool teacher, so of course she has a classroom pet. Pretzel, the leopard gecko, who is arguably one of the most popular members of the Antolini school community. Many students have found comfort and happiness simply by holding Pretzel, thanks to a teacher who understands that relationships come before anything else. She even creates personalized spaces catered to the needs and interests of her students. Elise makes every student feel like they belong. When she sees an opportunity to connect with the students, she's there, whether that's joining the sixth graders at a hike at White Memorial or joining a student book club at her free time. What I love about Elise is that she sees students for who they are. She celebrates their differences and advocates for what they need. While we're all sad to see her leave, anyone who knows Elise knows that she has adventures waiting for her with plenty of traveling, and she's already planning a trip to Africa. She'll be spending time with her family and friends. Elise, we're incredibly grateful for everything that you have given to our school community. Your kindness, patience, and humor have left a lasting impression on all of us, especially the kiddos that you always believed in. Enjoy your retirement.
Whoops, they've been doing a terrific job all year long. Thank you so much. And I want to turn it over to Daisy and to Vivian. Please come on up. I'll get your presentation ready. All right. For those in the audience that have not seen Daisy and Vivian present, just be prepared. You're about to be blown away. They are incredibly talented. No pressure. No pressure whatsoever. You're right. Here you go.
End of the year wrap up.
Congratulations to Blake and Cadence for earning the Litchfield County Superintendent's Award.
Field trip to the Ripley Waterfall Conservatory. First grade went on a trip to the Ripley Waterfall Conservatory. In ELA, they learned all about why birds have amazing bodies and how to care for birds. This field trip brought their learning to life.
Second grade tour with a fifth grade buddy. Yesterday, on June 1st, fifth graders partnered up with second graders to show them around Antolini. They walked around school, showing each second grader what their school would be like when they came here.
Band players playing to the New Hartford's Memorial Day ceremony on the green. Miss Melillo took Avery Wadman, Kay Connolly, and Abby Sears, three of our sixth grade trumpet players, to the New Hartford's Memorial Day ceremony on the green. They had fun playing for people and honoring our relatives or family members that died in battle.
Celebration of Learning. At the Celebration of Learning on May 28th, students were given the opportunity to do a special project such as a science project or a research project. This educational activity is a fun way to express the students' love for learning. TAG students also presented their geographical projects that they have put so much time and effort into. Thank you to all the participants who shared their amazing work.
Celebration of Learning. Here are some more photos of students getting the chance to show off their mind-blowing projects that they did.
And some more breathtaking photos of our awesome students.
Art show. At Antolini's art show, hosted by our art teacher, Miss Savage, every student's art can be displayed for families to see. For example, fourth graders did ice cream sundae sculptures, and sixth graders used clay to create fishes, whales, or turtles that can be presented inside a fish tank. One activity you can do while you're looking around the art is a look for the donut in a fish tank, which is where you have to find a donut that is hidden inside of our little aquarium of fish. Lastly, kindergarten made lollipops out of model magic and popsicle sticks.
Fifth grade field trip to Nature's Classroom. Fifth graders went on a field trip to Nature's Classroom to learn all about nature. They had fun going on hikes, playing games, and looking at wild animals from afar.
On Pi Day, students at Antolini learned about what pi is and what it is used for. Here are the following activities students did to find the area of a circle. Color in a circle, use yarn to find the circumference of a circle, and design a hexagon to put together.
Sixth grade field trip to White Memorial. All three sixth grade classes took a field trip to White Memorial where they went on hikes, played fun games, and explored the natural habitats of animals such as a beaver's dam. It was really intriguing to see how many different types of animals live out in the wild. Each student and teacher went on the hike on the boardwalk, which was so much fun until you got your shoes soaked from the flooding. Students also had to journal down about their time in the wild. My favorite part about the field trip was the museum and gift shop because there were so many interesting things to see and hear.
Mr. Guidon's class, shown on the pictures, is exploring their findings from Ongley Pond. They had found all kinds of animals, like turtles and crayfish, but also found a lot of algae. Overall, we had an amazing time learning about living things in the wild. In fact, Miss Stapleton's class just went today.
Some animals that you can find out there are barred owls, great blue herons, snapping turtles, beavers, red-tailed hawks, and red foxes. In this photo, one of our 6th grade students found a crawfish swimming in the water at White Memorial.
More upcoming events. 4th grade field trip to the Capitol. 4th graders are about to embark on a trip to our Capitol. They will be using knowledge that they learned in class in social studies and connect that knowledge with things they will see at the Capitol. Grade 3 field trip to the Science Museum. All of 3rd grade will get to go to the Science Museum where they get to play and have fun and mostly see why things work the way they do. Field day at all 3 schools. Field day at all 3 schools is a blast. Some of the activities that we can do here are radar run with Trooper Fig, kickball, capture the flag, and games that include water. One of the games that we play is Duck Duck Goose, or as we like to call it, Drip Drip Drench.
Being a student representative.
For me, being a student representative means having the opportunity to be here, showing everyone how unique our school can be. I think my favorite part of being included in part of this is making slideshows. This gives me the chance to be creative, and I also get the chance to work on it with Daisy. All in all, I wanted to let you all know how grateful I am to be here, and for me to have the chance to be part of this wonderful community.
Out of all my work I have done for being the student representative, my favorite part is being able to present the things I have learned and explored. I am also grateful to share this experience with Vivian. She is such a wonderful partner to present with, and she has taught me so much this year. Lastly, I would like to thank all of you for giving your time for us to present all the amazing things students have done. It has been such an honor to represent such an incredible school.
All right, as a quick token of appreciation as well to our student reps who have done an amazing job all year long and have independently worked on projects such as this and so many others to demonstrate and display the beautiful work that takes place each and every day here at New Hartford Public Schools. There's a small certificate of appreciation as well as a gift certificate to Barden Farm. So this will be awarded to Daisy. This one will be awarded to Vivian. Congratulations. Thank you both so much. Thank you. Oh, we wanted a picture. Wait, don't leave. Come back. Picture. And I didn't forget Mrs. Yost for getting a picture with you next. Assume your positions. Same order would be great, so we know what we're doing. Yeah. Everybody in?
Yeah,
Watch that water bottle.
We're good.
Okay. Big smile. This way, come closer to me. Right here, this way. All right, thank you. Reps, you can have a seat. Mrs. Yost, come on up. Oh, we got another picture. Hold on, one more. You're welcome. Students, you can have a seat. And Mrs. Yost, come on up. Thank you so much. All right. Up next under the superintendent's report, under subsection C of section 10-220 of the Connecticut General State Statutes, I just wanted to make sure that the public is aware of our profile and performance reports. This is one element that the superintendent is required to demonstrate to the public. So make sure that everyone knows how to get it. It's clicked on our website. We do our performance and academic performance and presentation here at the board level each and every year. This is just the official document that exists on the Connecticut State website on EdSite. for folks to visit. It provides additional information that we don't necessarily present because we're so focused on student achievement and academics, but it has a lot more information if you're ever interested. It is there and it's available as a public document to satisfy the requisite of Section 10-220 of the Connecticut General State Statutes. Up next, I want to show the board and our public the completion of the chlorination project, just to take everybody walk back a little bit in time at Bakerville Elementary School. We had a couple spikes in bacteria levels in the well, and over time, our water project manager had suggested and highly recommended including a smaller chlorination system to eliminate the bacteria that was found in the water system. So this was the before and after pictures, just to show everybody. I'm not a technically specific plumber, so I probably can't answer all of your questions. However, the water was coming straight in. It is now going through a chlorination system, and it is monitored more frequently now just to make sure. So this was the old system with the pipes all combined. And then the post work, you'll see that there's new piping, new meters to check that, injection points where the chlorine is being entered into. There's a feed pump pace meter as well to make sure everything works correctly. And there are different alarms established as well in case anything were to fail. So this was installed by Mr. Ron Black and his company, and they are our water management company as well. They complete water tests for our school district for any of our wells, and they submit all of the work on behalf of the Board of Education to the state and to the Department of Public Health. Okay, so that's our chlorination project. And up next, I'm going to welcome up Mr. Mike Lynch to present on our pre-K program.
Sorry, I don't like to have my back to people, so. We wanted to present on our preschool program here in New Hartford. I know there's been a lot of questions, and so as an educator, our goal. Thanks. Our goal is to provide that education and really just inform the public and the board to understand why we have the preschool program, what the makeup is, and kind of our process when we start to think about classrooms and makeup. So that would be the goal. So just some basic information. All school districts in preschool. In Connecticut, we're required to provide special education to all children beginning at age 3. And note that that is beginning at age 3. So that can be any time throughout the school year. So if a student turns 3 in December, we're required to start to provide services for them under IDEA. Our program here in New Hartford is a reverse mainstream program. What this means is that we educate students with IEPs along with their non-disabled peers. When we look at this, the maximum ratio or the most we're allowed is to have half of the classroom regular education or non-disabled peers and half special education students. Obviously, that's not necessarily the ideal or what we look for. When we try to look at best practice, we try to keep that ratio a little closer to 30 to 40%. Again, keeping in mind that students enter the program throughout the entire school year. So if we look at that, assuming if we wanted to go on the higher end of best practice, 40% of the program having students with IEPs currently, and this number constantly changes. Again, students can enter into the program at any time. Right now we have about 17 students that have IEPs in our preschool program. If we keep to that 40%, that would require us to have about 43 students in total. Again, necessitating a need for 3 preschool classrooms. The number of preschool classrooms is evaluated on an annual basis. I'll give a little bit more information about this a little bit later, but we're looking at birth rates from the town, and we also have a preschool screening day and a preschool playgroup day. Another big change that necessitated us looking at the number of classrooms is the updated kindergarten law. So if you're not familiar, a couple years ago, they put into place that you needed to be 5 by September 1st, and they allowed districts to put in a waiver. So we had a waiver for a couple years, and then starting next year, the waiver is no longer in place. So students have to be 5 by September 1st to begin kindergarten. So what this means is for us, you know, again, as I mentioned, from a lot of times the program Birth to 3 brings students into our program. Sometimes they're public referrals. But what this means is that now, instead of students with IEPs being in our preschool for 2 years, now they're typically in there for 2.5 or 3 years. Again, that just means we have a need for more preschool slots. Current preschool information. So right now we have 3 preschool classrooms, and with those 3 preschool classrooms right now, we are about 40% of the students have IEPs. If we had started the year with only 2 sections, typically we start around 14 or 15, depending, and then 18 is the maximum per the board policy. This year alone, we added 6 students throughout the year into our preschool. We did have 10 preschool students that became eligible for services, but sometimes families choose to keep them in their current programming. Sometimes they choose itinerant services, so they don't attend the preschool, but they still get services in the school. And again, this number varies year to year, anywhere from an average from 4 to 8 new students. So keeping that in mind, that's why we, again, felt the need to make sure we had those 3 preschool classrooms. If we started with only 2 classrooms, at the end of this year, our ratio would have been about 70% of the students in those 2 classrooms having IEPs. So in looking at scheduling and planning, when we start to look at the number of sections, we look at who's currently in our preschool program, who's 3 and who's 4, who's not eligible for kindergarten, so who's going to repeat or be in the next section of preschool. We do look at birth rates from the town. I do have access to preliminary birth to 3 information, so I can see students that are enrolled and their birth dates to get somewhat of an idea of maybe students who might qualify. And the big piece of it we look at is our preschool sign up and our playgroup day. So around March and April, we know exactly how many families are interested in our preschool program, both for 3-year-olds and for 4-year-olds. And so around this time, we can see the total number of possible preschool students without really knowing 100% the number of students that will come in that year. So about a year ago, around March, April, we did have a high number, and that's kind of what, at least for me, started that conversation with Jeff and the other administrators about the number of sections that we had, because we knew at that time that we were going to estimate that we needed more. So what about New Hartford Preschool? So I just think it's very important, again, make sure we're all educated about what preschool is and isn't. So preschool is not daycare. Both are very important, and both serve a very important function for families in the town. And preschools are not all equal. So again, nothing against any other preschool, but here in New Hartford, all of our preschool teachers are both preschool teachers and special ed certified. Our preschool includes a speech and language pathologist, a school psychologist, an occupational therapist, a physical therapist. It takes place in a school setting, which means that there's a principal, there's a nurse, there's a school counselor. So again, students are getting that access to a school setting. And then another piece that I see as important is, like, why should we care about preschool? Why is it important? So just looking at some of the factors of the importance of preschool, we look at school readiness. So children that are in preschool have stronger literacy and math skills and language development. The impact of this is reduces that remediation, and we have stronger K-2 instruction. It's important for their social emotional development, so it builds self-regulation and attention, positive behavior and peer interactions. And again, this works to improve classroom climate and does reduce those behavioral challenges. Long-term outcomes, studies have been done that show students that are involved in preschool programs have a higher graduation rate, lower crime rates, they have higher earnings. And again, we look at this as preschool as a long-term cost avoidance strategy. Again, another piece of it is the special education reduction. So students involved in preschool have, in general, have lower special education placements and a reduced need for intervention services, and really highlights how early intervention can reduce later costs and supports. Preschool is one, or pre-kindergarten is one of the most effective tools to support lower income families, to close readiness gaps and to provide early intervention for all of our learners. The impact of this is really leveling the playing field for students and families before kindergarten begins. I like to throw in some anecdotes to really highlight exactly what this looks like. So in practice, just this past month, that we had 2 meetings for students that were involved in our preschool. One is in kindergarten now and one is in 1st grade. And just last month, both of those students were exited from special education. And that really highlights the hard work that the preschool team did for those years, as well as the special education team in kindergarten and 1st grade. So the cost of preschool. So tuition from preschool, I think it's better to think about it as a cost recovery to what we are legally required to provide. When we look at our tuition, we are evaluating it regularly. We do look at it. We are looking at the costs of what is being charged in other towns. And again, we tend to fall in line with the comparable school districts. Another piece that is more, again, of a cost avoidance strategy that's hard to necessarily quantify is keeping students in our district. So sometimes families are attending magnet schools starting in pre-K, and for many reasons. Sometimes it's because it's closer to their work or there's after school care, and sometimes there's no preschool spots. What that means is as they continue their career, if they stay at a magnet school, the district is charged transportation fees, tuition, and that's for regular education students. And then if they do become a special education student, those fees are also charged to the town. So again, these are all services that we can already provide in town that we already pay our staff for. But if we have families that are attending a magnet school and they stay there, then we do have to pay the tuition to the magnet schools. So again, it's hard to quantify exactly how much we're saving when we keep our kids in district, but it is a cost savings. So that was just kind of a brief overview of what preschool is, the cost, and kind of the reasoning behind our thoughts. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or has a comment or anything, but again, the whole goal was just to provide a little bit more background and a better understanding of why we make the decisions that we do and what we do here in New Hartford.
I have a question. You had a slide up earlier regarding the 50% legally.
Yes.
So if as a district we planned, right, the maximum ratio, that's per some statute.
Yes.
Okay, so if we plan 50%, right, and just say forget the 30 or 40, we plan right on the 50% mark. What happens during the year if you get 2 students that come in and throw that ratio to like you said before, 70%.
Yeah.
Legally, what is that? Where does that put the district? Is there any jeopardy, any fines, what does that look like?
The students' IEPs aren't in compliance.
No,
that's it.
we would be out of compliance with the 50% requirement, right? That's a
Correct.
state requirement.
Correct.
What if we didn't allot for enough classrooms? We had a couple of students come in who required special ed that would throw that ratio above the 50% mark.
Correct.
What does that do to the district in the eyes of the state? Is there some sort of,
Yeah.
financial or other repercussion that we would bear?
I don't know because I don't want to get into that place. But when we write a student's IEP that's a legal document, we're saying that they're provided these services in a classroom where no more than 50% of the students are have IEPs. So legally, all of those IEPs would be out of compliance, and it puts us and the board in a bad situation. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know of the legal ramifications in terms of what it would look like in terms of compliance for us. Yeah. Yeah. It could be. I'm not aware necessarily of the consequences of that. I don't know of any district that tries to ride that line for that specific reason. Just we don't want to put ourselves out of compliance. But I'm not aware of the legal ramifications of it or financial ramifications.
I'm going to assume that if we're out of compliance with IDEA, we're going to be facing lawsuits because we're not providing the education for the student that is required based on what you mentioned earlier, their IEP. So one way or the other, we'll be forced to pay for that no matter what, in addition to legal fees and whatever placement that the family now is going to want because there's a poor relationship. They don't feel like this school district is taking care of their children.
Mm-hmm. The other part of it is, the students really benefit from being with their peers, right? And they provide almost like peer models. And we see the benefit of students really growing in that early intervention in a classroom where, they have, typically, in those typically performing students or those non-disabled peers as kind of like those peer models. So if you start going the other way and having a higher percentage, I don't think you'd see as much growth in our students. Yeah, just throwing that out there. Yep.
I'm embarrassed if you've already covered this in a previous meeting, but I have to ask because I could have spaced out. Do we know what's the demand for next year, numbers wise?
Yeah, the number still requires us to have 3 preschool classrooms.
So how many, like 43 or something for next year?
We already had our playgroup day, and we're just asking. We don't have all the parents that have confirmed that they're gonna be involved in our preschool, but we do have a wait list. So right now, I think we are starting probably at 45, 44.
And how many on the wait list?
Right now, there's 2 on the wait list. But we always typically have families that come in over the summer. And, if they move in and they want to be part of our preschool, if we have a spot, I'd, definitely like to offer them a spot.
Have we ever had to turn parents or turn students away?
Yes,
Not
every
able
year.
to every year.
Every year. Yeah, even last year when we opened the 3rd section of preschool, we did take everybody on. We had some families that initially said no, and then we took families on the wait list, and then some of the families wanted to sign their children up, and at that point the classroom was full. So I don't think there's ever been a year that I've been here that we haven't turned families away.
So our again, just to be clear, our legal obligation is any student 3 years old through their 5th birthday, as long as it's, if it follows after, or if it, they have to for kindergarten, they have to be 5 by September.
Yep.
So if they turn 5 afterwards, we have to continue to keep them in the pre-K program if they have an IEP.
Correct. The most extreme example would be if a student turned 3 on September 2nd. And they turn on their 3rd birthday is September 2nd. They're part of our 3-year-old program. The next year they'd be part of our 4-year-old program or some variation of that. And then the next year, because they weren't 5 by September 1st, they would also be part of our 3-year-old program. So a student with a birthday like that would need those services would be in there for a full 3 years. Typically, it's not a full 3 years. There's a range. So sometimes you've got we had a lot come in December this year. So there'll be a lot of students that are in our program for 2.5 years.
Okay. And in addition to that legal obligation for those students that have an IEP is 50% of regular ed students to join them.
Yes.
Right. And we typically, in New Hartford, you all set it up to have that 40% mark when we try to set up the classes for the
30 to
next
40,
year.
Yeah, 30 to 40%.
Which also gives us, where Tom's point was, gives us a little latitude should somebody come in and need those services.
Correct.
Right? Because that would increase the percentage.
Absolutely. So
That's correct. Correct.
So the main avenue that we get kids into our preschool program is through the state Birth to 3 program. But sometimes we do have families that will contact us that are just part of the community and say, I have a concern, and they necessarily weren't part of the Birth to 3 program. So those aren't students that we can necessarily plan for. Sometimes students start late into Birth to 3. So the information that I get, I don't get any other information other than their birth date. So I can see students' birth dates to get an idea of the number of students. And every student from Birth to 3 doesn't necessarily qualify for an IEP. So that makes the scheduling of it a little challenging, because if it was very cut and dry, I could say we're going to start with 18, we're going to start exactly at 50%, and but there's a lot more nuance to it that makes it a little bit more challenging. But these are just all factors that I try to keep in mind.
Question. So, one, I think it's a really, just the way you're describing it, it's mitigating risk, and that's really important. I think riding that 50%, like we were talking about, is not ideal. But other than that, I wanted to ask, do you have insight into how many students in town are part of one of the correct schools?
The numbers have steadily decreased. Right now, if they're part of pre-K, we don't necessarily know, because they're charged tuition through the correct school. We don't really know until they become kindergartners. If they don't register. I think we only have a handful, a couple, 2 or 3 right now.
Yeah, I've received notification that we have 2 currently. That's it. When I first started here, we had 16.
Wow. Thank you.
The September 1st date, is that for identified students and regular education students? They can't start they can't start kindergarten
Yes.
on that, regardless of an IEP or a regular ed.
Correct.
Okay.
And we are one of the last states to do that. Most states have moved in that direction prior to us. And we see it at the early elementary that a lot of times the students just need a little bit of extra time, that can make a huge difference for them being ready for kindergarten.
I just want to add one small thing that for my daughter's in one of the correct schools right now, and I'm going into the preschool program with her this coming year. And I didn't know when I put her in the program that New Hartford would be responsible for that transportation cost. I was told, if she starts kindergarten here, then we'll do the transportation, because of course it's a burden to drive them over there. But I happen to work over there, which is the scenario that you gave. So I find it really interesting. Now that I'm here, I understand that, but prior to that, I didn't know. So
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, and we don't really have any control over the costs. So it's hard to. I think correct schools do a great job and they serve a great purpose. It's just hard to pay for something that we already pay for here in district.
Is there enough interest to feel to have maybe 4 preschool classrooms in this town?
With the numbers this year and next year, not right now. Because I would want to make sure that we have a solid classroom numbers. I wouldn't want to start a classroom with like 10. So right now, no, but if something were to change, or we have, a big birth bubble, or, a lot of interest, we do evaluate that every year. And again, the benefit of having that screening day is that I know all the, we open it up online and advertise it. And parents know if they're interested in the 3 and the 4-year-old program to sign up. So I can see exactly how many families, and by age 3 or by age 4. Again, that's like March, April-ish when we start to get that information to start to plan for the next year.
Any further questions? Well, thank you very much, and I would like to thank you for sharing the success stories with the 2 students that just came out of the program. That's fantastic, and if there's any more of those, please continue to bring them to us, and thank you and all the staff that's part of that program.
Yeah, I echo our chairman's sentiment, especially to Mike and Amy Kennedy, who is our principal there for our preschool program at New Hartford Elementary School. That is the reason why it's successful. With our teachers that are there, our staff, they work collaboratively to make sure that they're meeting the needs of all of our kids and working very well with our families as well, because every single one of them comes to the preschool program with different needs. They all have different upbringings, different values. There's so much that is so unique about their first experience coming into school. And I don't take that lightly at all. From first day when a lot of people are crying and we're all hugging each other and handing out tissues to each other, to the successful graduation that we just had with their beautiful red caps and their red gowns and how absolutely adorable it is. That'll be in the quarterly newsletter as well. It's just outstanding and so heartwarming, but it's also just setting the footing for kids to be successful at a very young age. And I'm very proud of that. So thank you, team. And thank you, board, for your great questions as well and insights, so that we have full understanding of the program. All right, may I continue, sir? All right, in your packets, you'll find, it's very important, that I belabor the point about legislative advocacy. And when things finally come to fruition, you almost feel like what happened with the supplemental educational cost share monies that came to the town for the Board of Education and educational expenses, as well as to the municipality. So I do have to publicly thank, again, we sent out letters to our representative, Mark Anderson, who was available, texting, calling me, the same with Senator Paul Honig, and also those 2 contacted me. Governor Lamont did not, but again, thankful that the Appropriations Committee, the Education Committee, everyone supported this. Very important move. It's a step in the right direction. It's not the full commitment we're looking for, but it's providing some relief. In the same sentiment, I do want to make sure that I give major kudos to Mrs. Savage for our art show. Absolutely spectacular. Again, students coming back from Region 7 to thank Mrs. Savage for the impact that they've had on their lives and where they are now in their artistic endeavors, whether videography, photography, whatever it may be. They were inspired and they come back to say thank you to Mrs. Savage. I sat there while student and teacher are hugging each other and everyone's crying. But such a beautiful moment, and so many things that our educators do that we don't know about every day because we're not there, we don't see it, we don't observe it. But in our classrooms, at our art shows, at our celebration of learning, thank you to Mrs. Mathis and our entire team for putting that together, where students are beaming with pride for the work that they are doing. It is exceptional to see that, and I do not take that for granted whatsoever. Also, I don't take for granted that the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Education work together so diligently to propose and provide a reasonable, an understandable budget to the entire town. And I'm thankful to everybody that came out and voted and passed our town's budget, supporting education, supporting our town together. I think that's fantastic. I want to pass out just a letter that I sent over to the chairman and the selectmen's group as well. So if we could pass these out. And Elizabeth, I have a copy for you as well. 3 and 4. You just pass those down to read at your convenience. As I wrap up superintendent's report, I believe there's 12 more days of school, but who's counting? Last day of school will be on June 18th for students. It's a half day, and 19th for staff. June 19th is also Juneteenth in celebration of that. And June 21st, we celebrate our fathers. And July 4th marks the 250th anniversary of our wonderful country, the semi-quintessential of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And last on my list, I believe we do not have a Board of Education meeting in the month of July, so we'll see everybody back here August, I just said the date, 17th? 18th, thank you, Sarah, at 7 p.m. as we kick off next year, believe it or not, and wrap up this year. It's crazy how time just absolutely flies. Those are all of my updates under superintendent's report. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention.
Does anybody have any questions for Jeff?
I have a quick question. How do you select people for the art show? I'm not saying like based on the artwork itself, but what was the process to notify the students that they were chosen for the show?
For the superintendent's art show or the district-wide art show? 'Cause there were two different ones.
Okay, I think the superintendent's one.
Superintendent's
Yeah.
art show. So I leave that strictly up to Mrs. Savage and knowing where students are, where they've began and where they've ended, how much they've progressed, and discussing that with students. And then we reach out to families and invite them after the artwork has been procured by Mrs. Savage and then displayed at the superintendent's office.
Okay.
The other art show is a full wide variety of everybody from pre-K up to 6th grade.
Okay. Someone told me about like a communication, some sort of note that students were getting, and they were very excited, at least in my daughter's class. They were very
Yeah,
excited.
there was a certificate awarded after the fact. That might be what she's
Oh, okay.
referring to.
Okay.
Yep, yep, just as an acknowledgement of their pieces being selected.
Okay, that's very nice.
Sure.
Any additional questions? All right, seeing none, we will move on to item E on our agenda, which is the Board of Education Chair's Report. Following up on Jeff saying we will not see each other until July, is in your packet, the Board of Education self-evaluation. We do need to have this completed, and I'm going to propose that we have a special virtual meeting where we get together to talk about this. We need to have this done by,
Be great if before July, since we don't have a meeting in July. This is to continue the work and the importance of having a Board of Education that is functional, operational, and mission-driven. So a self-evaluation is part of our process as we apply for recognition, not just with CABE, but also to ensure that we are doing and being accountable to our communities as well.
so what I will do is after this meeting, I will send everybody a note just with a couple of dates and times. We'll do a virtual meeting. You have this in your packet. We could probably get this electronically, right? It worked out pretty well with the superintendent's evaluation.
We'll try to work something out, yeah.
All right, if we can
I'll
get that
make a note of that.
electronically, we'll get that sent out, and we'll try to schedule a date before the end of June where we can just meet, again, virtually and walk through. In executive session, yes. Meet in executive session and walk through the board evaluation together. So I'll send out a couple of dates.
This has to be done by when?
July 1st preferably, before we kick off next year.
Is there a legal?
No,
requirement?
nothing, no, nothing legal about that.
I find this is going to be completely waste of time virtually. That's my opinion. If we can put it off until we get together, we have a hard time, again, this is my opinion, we have a hard enough time doing this in a room together, but on computers, I think it would be a waste of time. That's just my opinion. I'll put it out there.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if everybody's okay with getting together, and we'll do an executive session in the July meeting if we can do that. If everybody's, what's that? An August meeting, I'm sorry.
There's no strict deadline. I was offering a July 1 just so we could get it done from this particular calendar year, but it doesn't need to be.
I'm okay waiting myself. And I do agree. I think being in person would be more effective. If everybody's good, we'll wait till the August meeting for this. Bunch of nods, okay. So we'll still get this out electronically so everybody has it, and then we'll follow up. And then we'll do an executive session in the August meeting. Okay, the next item on the chair's report is a town memo regarding records. Just so everybody's aware, the board secretaries, each board of selectmen, board of finance, board of education, the other commissions in town received a note via email from Christine Hayward regarding meeting minutes. What had been happening is meeting minutes were all going downtown to the clerk's office, being filed with all the attachments that we all have in front of us today. There was a memo sent out that said that they were no longer going to accept all the attachments, and the meeting minutes were all that needed to go into public record. We wanted to make sure that aligned with what the state requires us to do, because there's a lot of information, there's a lot of things that we go through. You know, for instance, any of these attachments that are here today, our budgets as they're presented, you know, throughout budget season. We did receive from, here it is, the Office of Public Record Administrator. Her name is Nicole Marino. She sent back to us referring us to M1 General Administration Records, which again, none of us will know what that is, but agendas are required to be on file and stored for 1 year for all the boards. Minutes for all government agencies and bodies, including boards and commissions, is permanent. So all these records go into permanent storage in binders and hard copy. And they're maintained by the municipality permanently. We followed up to say, okay, we want to make sure that we're good without the attachments. The response came back from, again, the Office of Public Records Administrator saying that at this time, we consider all attachments as part of the minutes. So we will have to reply back, and again, I'm just letting the board know, we'll have to reply back to Christine and the clerk's office, letting them know that we have received this information, and letting them know that, you know, right now, the attachments still need to be there until the state changes their requirements.
Forever.
Permanent.
All that paper.
That's the problem, and that's why you think the clerk's office. All that paper's in the clerk's office, right? So it goes in the vault. And we've always, again, even the task force, right? All the minutes from the task force, all the commissions, everybody's giving all these minutes with the attachments. And it's a lot of paper. Right? And we're a small district, right? We're a small town. Imagine other locations. So, you know, hopefully they change that, but right now they're saying that they consider attachments as part of the minutes is the response that we received. So we'll get a note back over to Christine. Okay. I covered everything on that one? All right. The next item under the chair's report is the educational cost share that Jeff so kindly brought up a little, just a few minutes ago under the superintendent's report. It's great news that the state has made a change. I'm sure all of you or many of you have seen it in the news. But as of May 2nd, the General Assembly passed an amended budget for the fiscal year 2027. In that, they provided $100 million of supplemental municipal assistance, $162.2 million in supplemental education aid grants, and $10.9 million in district relief and compensatory use learning aid grants. This is across 169 districts, so unfortunately not all to New Hartford, because that would have been nice to get $162 million. Our share, right, which is great to see, is our share of that is $173,240. That's for the educational piece of it. The municipal piece of it was $22,147. So this came out after we passed our budget here in New Hartford, as many districts and towns throughout the state had. My understanding, and I wasn't there and I haven't seen the minutes that came off of the Board of Finance meeting, but the Board of Finance did see this. They understood that we were getting the money. They had a discussion at their last meeting. My understanding is they motioned to put 50% of this funds that we're receiving into or put it against the 26-27 budget, which will reduce our increase across both municipal and education. And it will also, it'll also reduce the mill rate increase that was coming up. The other 50% of it, my understanding is they motioned to put that back into the general fund, where they removed funds to be able to reduce the tax increase this year. We have received some guidance from the Secretary of, the Office of Policy and Management. I have that document here, which is kind of telling you which way you go, but they refer to, when it goes to the municipal, they talk about that municipalities will be required to report on the expenditures of these funds to the OPM by January 1st, 2027. They talk about how you have to handle this money if you already have a budget versus not having an approved budget in your town. They refer you to, where is it here? If I could find it. I'm sure I have it here. Yeah, I'm sorry. The specific provisions are found in sections 503 and 506 of Senate Amendment A to the House bill. To be honest with you, I didn't review that and go through the detail of it. At this point now, the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen believe that what they've done is in line with the guidance here. But I just wanted to bring to this board's attention that we did receive these funds. Those funds were applied, 50% to the budget, as I understand, and then 50% to the general fund. Right? Is that accurate? And I believe that 50% was the total of the 195,000, right? So 50-50.
That I'm not sure of, but
Yeah.
sounds.
So I'll have to get their
sounds
minutes to
reasonable.
find out exactly. I don't know if they put 50% of the 173 and then the other 50% of the general fund. Again, that's all to be determined. But our understanding is that was the motion and how they handled the funds that came in after our budget was passed. Any questions on that? It's a little confusing, but the good news is we received additional money, right? Which helped reduce our tax increase for next year. One time. And it does, and again, there's a good point. And the other part of it is it needs to be held in its own separate account, right, for audit reasons. All right, and then the next item that it's not actually not listed here, but another piece of good news that we, through the tri-board meeting that Jeff, myself, and Chairwoman Guilfoyle and our first selectman, Jerem, we meet every 4 weeks, every 5 weeks, just to get together as board chairs. And one of the things that our first selectman, Jerem, brought up is that there's available ARPA funds that are going to expire, I believe by the end of the year is what, in December is what our first selectman had indicated. That money was originally intended to be used towards the New Hartford Elementary School roof, and that roof is not going forward right now. So the good news is that money is available for us to take and use against some of the deferred maintenance, the list that we received from the task force right now. So Superintendent Sousa and his administration are going to go through the list of deferred maintenance here at Antolini, and we're going to come up with a priority list of those items that we could bite off now and try to get done over the summer and before these funds expire. My understanding in the estimate that our first selectman gave me was about $110,000 is available. All right, which if we don't use it, we'll lose it by December. All right.
We will use it.
Again, good information, right, to be able to take care of the list of deferred maintenance that we currently have. Any questions with that? Okay. Well, that concludes the chair's report. Now, next item on our agenda is item F, routine business, approval of the minutes. So we have two sets of minutes, both on April 14th and May 2nd. If there's no objection, I don't know if everybody was present. Okay. So we should we'll have to take them separately. Yep. Yep. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the April 14th meeting? Motion by John. Oh, no. No, we'll start with the April 14th. So we got a motion by John. Do we have a second? Second by Kristen. Okay. I'm going to take this because I know there are members not here. So all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed. All those that abstain. So that motion passes 5-0-2. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of May 5th? Motion by Frank, second by John. Any discussion? And all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, all those who abstain. That motion passes 6-0-1.
Did you get abstain? Thank you.
Okay. And again, that is May 5th, right, not May 2nd. Okay, next item on the agenda is the expenditure report. That was in your package that went home with you and came across electronically. Can I get a motion to approve the expenditure report? A motion by Frank, second by Kirby. Any discussion on the expenditure report? One question that I have, you have some line item transfers that are coming up soon.
I do. Today, I have the packet in front of me, so I'll
Oh, yeah.
pass them out to everybody.
Okay, do we want to take those now or are those separate on the agenda? That's the next item.
Separate, yeah, next
Okay,
item.
but it's
sir.
not, so it's not in this.
No, sir.
Okay.
Not until it's been approved.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. And the next item on the agenda is the line item transfers.
Take one pass.
Do you want to walk us through these?
Yep, I will walk everyone through them, line by line. And I want to give the board, again, context, background with the reminder that this year with unanticipated leaves of absence has permitted us to have additional savings throughout our budget, specifically in the medical lines and salary lines. There was also a change to an outplacement tuition, which again was to the benefit of the Board of Education in terms of budgeting. So there are currently 7 requests before the board, and I'll walk through each one of them. The first one, or the first 2, are for legal purposes. And if we recall, last year we did cut the budget specifically in legal. We always do that as an attempt to try to save some monies before we go forward. But we did have our teachers union negotiation contracts this year, as well as some other legal things that we needed to complete from the last school year. So those are the 2 transfers there. You could tell they're coming from the tuition line and from the insurance, again, from the unpaid leaves. The next one is the $28,000 for medical insurance to purchase services is directly tied to our contract with Silver Petroselli and Associates. As the board motioned at one of our previous meetings to change that motion, instead of using non-lapsing, we could use up to the amount for non-lapsing. We do have the surplus funds this year, so the recommendation is to move that. For $74,000, these were emergency repairs at Ann Antolini. They include electronic door installations, pneumonic thermostats, manhole covers for oil tanks, Verkada alarm system. Our alarm system, burglary system, was not functional. Backflow preventers, remover of power poles and installation and patching. Also replacing the floors in the previously known as Oak Hill rooms. So the floors were replaced. We had sheer shades replaced. We had water heaters replaced. Replacing an outdoor playground camera. We had new chairs purchased for the building and new signage and also fencing up behind the basketball hoops to prevent the ball from going down into the woods all of the time at a total of $74,000. Again, that transfer request comes from the medical over to emergency repairs. The next one is for $62,000 at Bakerville School. Those are inclusive of spill container piping and tank pad from Hughes Mechanical, gutter sensors and heat tape on the roof that was deteriorating and not working correctly, an alarm system at Bakerville as well, septic camera outlet pipeline review for clogging consistently. We also needed to replace lots of window trim. We had to purchase cafeteria tables, which were in poor condition and unsafe, and also for the chlorination system at Bakerville. So that's totaling the $62,000 request there from medical to emergency repairs for Bakerville. For New Hartford Elementary School, the request there is for the 18,000. We had several different areas that were leaking upon the roof. We had fire protection testing and repairing of 8 sprinkler deficiencies. We had a wireless receiver that needed to be repaired. We had some snow issues, obviously, at the school that we needed to push and remove that were unexpected costs. Again, all of these are. We had sprinkler repairs, electronic door installations, the burglar alarm system, repairing post and rail sections that were damaged either through the storm or through plowing, snowstorms, and additional roof repairs that are a lot more substantial as they come through. So that emergency repair line is $18,000 at request there. And the last one there for equipment at Antolini at $12,000. This was to replace a playground security camera, intercom and camera at the entrance and exit doors, and to configure all of the keys for security and access points with our badges. So that was the additional request for $12,000. Those are all of the requests and transfers, again, based on the surplus and to bring our lines back to some reality because of all the expenses for emergency repairs that, again, could not have been anticipated at all with some of the things that we've had to correct and repair at our schools.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the line item transfers?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Eric. Can I get a second? Second by Frank. Any discussion, questions regarding the line item transfers?
I have a couple of questions. One, with the legal fees, does that cover all of the legal fees that, do the transfer cover everything? Does this transfer cover everything we've expended so far this
To
year?
date so far, yes, that is correct.
And then I'm concerned about how old were the alarm systems? Like, did they just, what happened?
Yep, they were, I don't even know the age of them. The components couldn't be replaced in them, so I don't know how old they were. They just could not be, they were non-functional at all. They stopped alarming. They sometimes went on, sometimes did not go off. It was pretty concerning.
And were the electric door installations, like, was that part of, like, an electric door installation does not sound like an emergency repair to me, so I guess I don't really understand like what an
Sure,
emergency
I
repair is,
could
but
walk
like,
there.
you can elaborate on that,
Yep.
because that seems like a bigger project versus a,
Sure. So some of our doors were not electrified correctly, meaning if you swiped into the building once, it allowed you free reign and access into the building. So those need to be reconfigured so that a man trap actually functions the way that it's supposed to, which then secures that area, that vestibule, not allowing you into any other access point. So those all had to be rewired and reconnected back to the system. They were not originally.
you mentioned the playground security camera twice. That different school, and one was under equipment and one was under emergency repairs. How do you think about classifying things in that way? When
I'm
you
not
were reading
following.
things off, you mentioned the playground security camera under like one of the other schools under emergency repairs, and then you mentioned it again under equipment at Antolini.
One was existing already in place. The other one was not, was new to this year.
Got it.
Sorry, I didn't follow. I
That's,
wasn't
no,
tracking
that's
what you
okay.
were
That's why
asking.
I'm just trying to understand like what constitutes an emergency versus what's
Correct.
equipment.
What is that definition?
So an emergency repair means it was not anticipated to be corrected because of an existing camera versus a new piece of equipment which needed to be installed because it never existed in the first place.
Can you explain how the account numbers work? Because it looks like everything that an amount is going to is a different account number that's not listed on this.
Sure,
Ledger.
those I'd have to take you back through the budget book or the expenditures because each one of them is categorized by location and it's broken down into 4 different locations, our 3 schools and central office. But then like the 2000s would be under facilities and operations versus a 1000 would be under central office, for example. And then it ties back to our budget book directly. So if I go to legal at 1200, it would be in our budget book under the 1200 series, which is under central, our Board of Education, forgive me. And then line number 315, which would list the amount that was requested for the
Okay.
budget.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jeff, are we up to over $100,000 then this year for legal fees?
Probably around between 60 and 70,000 in that estimate round. With this request would be $40,000 and $27,000.
So I thought, I mean, it looks like, unless I'm reading this incorrectly, we spent 52,975.
Correct, and we still are anticipating May and then June, so 2 more bills to cover. So that's incorporated into this request.
Right, which is 67.
Yes,
But we spent 52,
correct.
so we need 67 more.
Yes,
So we're
To
over,
cover,
we're
yes.
over 100 and
yes,
change $1,000 in
Correct.
legal fees this year.
correct. Substantial. Yep.
We got to find a better way. We may as well put an attorney on tenure, on the staff,
On retainer then.
on retainer, or staff.
Do we have any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion by Eric and a second by Frank to approve the line item transfers as presented. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you. With equipment? Okay, thank you.
All right, we have new business. We have 2 new first reads of policies. Penny is absent today. Do we need to take these today, or can we postpone these till?
She asked me to read them. She was comfortable with me reading them out.
Okay.
All right, so the first one is strictly in relation to the law and the change. So you'll see that's stricken out 2024 on page 1 to 2026. And then we are eliminating the form for the waiver. So if you look on page number 5, you'll see it's in accordance with Connecticut Public Act 21-6. That is the Connecticut General Assembly's resolution to the inconsistencies created by the initial kindergarten age. So that has been revised. The form we're proposing to eliminate completely. So there's no discrepancy or any confusion whatsoever in terms of when New Hartford Public Schools is admitting kindergartners into our programming. So those are the only changes to this. The first read of the school safety preparation response and after action. First read, this takes, let me just quickly grab my narrative. This takes 3 different policies and coalesces them together. So under the CABE model policies, this plan or this policy replaces safe and secure school facilities number 3516, crisis management plan 5146.6, and emergencies and disaster preparedness 6114. These policies are no longer necessary due to the updated 5142, which you have before you. This policy is a comprehensive safety and security policy that covers essential components of policies 3516, 5141.6, and 6114. CABE recommends rescinding these 3 policies upon the adoption of the updated 5142. And that is my recommendation to the Board of Education as well. There will be additional changes that come out during the summertime, so don't be surprised if this comes again. They are trying to streamline the process for our emergency responses so that it's less cumbersome and makes more sense to those that are administering emergencies and responses. So that might change a little bit more again. But right now we have 3 different policies that exist in 3 different places, and their recommendation is to put it into the 5142 altogether.
Okay, these are just first reads. Does anybody have any questions on policy 5112 or 5142 before we move on to old business? Okay, moving on to old business. Under old business, we have the revision to policy 9221, filling board member vacancies. This is a second read, so we'll be looking for a motion to approve.
That is correct.
A motion by Kirby, can we get a second? Second by John. Okay.
So-
Any discussion?
Again, we have more information to look at together. So this was a very arduous and legally legally tricky policy. You'd think it's a quick, simple fix, but when you start looking into Connecticut general state statutes, you realize you need counsel to help you with this. So in your packet, you had an original version of it. There's been a little bit more discussion regarding that and legal opinion. So before you, you'll have the shipment model policy. And in talking to our attorney, we had added on the first component. Sorry, I'll just show everybody. Under the shipment policy, we added that first component in red and that second one as well, again, for clarification of what to do when there is a resignation or a position open on the Board of Education. When there is the max representation of 6 of a political party, it triggers the minority representation rule, which we have to follow very strictly. That is very clearly outlined in number 2. Thank you to John Puz and also again to our legal team for helping us. We looked even more deeply at my daughter's softball game. Kristen Young, Frank, myself, we all got together to look at and make this extremely clear with almost like a follow how-to guide with step 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you look at the bylaw, these will accompany the bylaw for further clarity. That one that I just handed out, there's a slight difference in the minority representation. It's just very small. It's a couple lines. I don't have that one in front of me. You have the newer one in front of you.
The
It's just
bylaw,
regarding-
the bylaw
regarding the
number's different.
minority.
Am I right in seeing that the first one is 9211 and then the updated one is 9221? Is that supposed to be?
It's 9211. So
11,
this was a
okay.
typo on this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the intent here is clarity and what to do when a vacancy comes to fruition, whether by resignation or by vacancy that comes in another way. Either a letter of resignation or we become aware of a vacancy that's created by other means, such as a resignation or other than a resignation. So this is the simple down dirty version of the policy. Okay. The more explicit version of the policy is behind it. I'm going to recommend that we adopt all of it together because of, unfortunately, past vacancies that have been present and then some misconstrued understanding of the state law and then also our bylaws. So take a minute to read through it. These again have gone through multiple revisions. And there's also a vacancy appointment decision framework, which I spoke about to make the process a little bit more clear on the second page. Which?
From the one that was in the packet.
Sure, I'll read.
That's the only difference. Oh, okay.
Again, it's just further clarification of the minority representation state statute. Yes, we went through multiple revisions of this policy, or this bylaw, actually.
Are the other pages the same?
Yes, the last two are the same. From your board packet, they're not. No, these last two that I just handed out are the revised version of those same vacancy and the decision framework. Yeah, you'll notice in the decision framework, there's a note under step 2. If the board has the maximum representation of one political party can have at the time the vacancy is created and the vacating member is not from the majority political party and is an unaffiliated voter, then additional analysis may be necessary under Connecticut General Statutes 9167 AG.
Does the policy committee go through all of this in detail?
Yeah, we met and talked about it more than one time.
No, that's not sure, because, I mean, I've been following this closely, as you know, from the
Yes.
out in.
Yep.
And so I'm comfortable, if the policy committee is comfortable with this, and I'm comfortable. So, I mean,
Well, wait,
We've met so many times to try to just.
this thing that's in the packet,
Mhm.
I went through, but what you just handed out is different.
It's got slight revisions and variations to clarify what we had discussed and what we had talked about, the ambiguity of the 30-day rule, the ambiguity of the minority representation versus the majority representation, and the ambiguity of an unaffiliated voter and what occurs if an unaffiliated vacates and then someone is endorsed by a political party. It may necessitate further investigation. So it clarifies all of that. But take the time, take time. That one, yeah, there's
I did my homework and then.
a little more
this is
there.
a curveball.
There's a little bit more. That's why you take the time to read it now.
That's why I asked the question, if the committee is recommending.
I have not seen.
Well, I haven't either, that's why I was asking the question, so,
Yeah.
I mean, we're either gonna trust the committee or we're gonna. So I'm fine with the committee.
Well, this I looked at, but
That's the same thing, same thing, yeah.
So I, yeah.
Let's call the attorneys again.
I have that bill.
So I don't want anybody to feel that they have to vote on this tonight if they're not comfortable with the new document that just came in. So can't guarantee anything.
I'm okay with it.
Generally speaking, from what we were trying to accomplish, just so that you guys can understand, was to be very clear about some of the things that came up. Number one, people who decided to transfer their party, thank you, people who decided to transfer their party membership in advance of a vacant, like when, upon finding out that there was a vacant board seat to try to get a seat. Do those people count against the majority party rules? This kind of lays that out. When they are eligible versus when they are not, based off of when they filed the paperwork relative to the time period here. Also trying to be very clear about the time period under which the Board of Ed has exclusive authority to act, and sort of like what procedures we're going to put in place and like clarify during that time period before the decision defaults to the town. The original policy also had language regarding like supplementing someone with an independent, which is an actual political party, but not representative of all potential parties. So like just trying to get clarity on like unaffiliated versus independent versus like majority party versus like what are the other parties that exist out there and like how that applies here. And like, then again, like what are the legal ramifications? And like, the minority representation piece is just really about, you can't have more than 6 members on the board that are part of one political party. That's the maximum. So how does that net out when like things start switching around and like, that's it. So again, just in terms of the problems we were trying to solve with this, we want to give you an overview of that, so that what I would love from you as you're reading this is to make sure that it's clear to you if any of those circumstances come up. Sorry to, yeah, but this is just a lot.
Have you read it over the new one?
Well, I was talking.
Have you read it?
So do what?
The only new stuff, Frank, from that old one to the new one is under like the step 2, that specific note that we were struggling with the unaffiliated component. There's not much more because it's one
Yeah.
pager. Our
What
core
thing they
rules are
say
the
is-
same.
is,
It's the same thing.
I think it says it's changed a little.
Correct. It's not substantive because
Yeah.
it just clarified what we as a subcommittee
Yeah, we
discussed
did
and you
do it.
asked me to attain counsel for, and I did, and it's been inserted here and then provided back to the committee and now for the full board.
I'll let all those guys do it.
Just going back to our last appointment, under these new rules, would we have been able to consider both political parties and unaffiliated?
The way that it was previously written, yes, because I believe the verbiage was independent voter was the extra word that, again, Kristen just explained, is really meant unaffiliated out of context, but it was worded independent voter, so we said that can't exist. We have to change that.
Thinking at the time it was 5, the majority was 5, right?
Yep, so it wouldn't have triggered
So
the
it-
minority representation.
So it could have been a Democrat.
Could have
It
been
a-
anybody, as long as you don't supersede the 6.
All right. Because we didn't open it up to Democrats, I don't think. But that was under the old law. Okay.
So that question that I asked, that you have in italics here, nobody knows.
So from some simple research, it would look like that if an affiliated party member came forward and was truly unaffiliated, then yes, can go forward with it. However, in research in the state of Connecticut, and even here in our own example, the unaffiliated voter is usually endorsed by the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. So then that is the extra layer that has to be under consideration under that Connecticut General State Statute. That's it.
But they just present themselves.
If it's unaffiliated, truly unaffiliated, could go either, go forward with it. But if they've been endorsed by another party, that's where the caution has to take place. Then you have to go back and see, are we going to supersede the majority here or not? And if we are, we cannot. But again, it's only triggered by that 6.
Well, an example is when you came on,
Mhm.
the person that left was unaffiliated, right?
Yes.
And
Kelly.
yeah, when Kelly left, she was
Democrat.
She changed her party affiliation before she vacated this, like a while before she vacated.
She was
She was
officially
elected as a
unaffiliated.
Democrat, then changed her party affiliation while she was in.
But you opened it up to Democrats and unaffiliated, I believe.
We
that
did.
time. Yeah.
But when the law says, because we were at the maximum of 6 Republicans at the time, right?
So,
And my
okay,
question
next,
for
yeah.
Jeff was, the law says that the replacement has to be from the same political party as the person vacated. Well, we ended up in the right place. But my question was, should it only have been an unaffiliated nominee in that case? Do you understand what I'm saying? If she had been a Democrat, it would have had to have been a Democrat, right? But she was unaffiliated. Yeah.
If we did that, I think, if the Board of Ed did that, I think it would have had to be, right? But then again, that's within the Board of Ed's purview to do that. I don't know if that holds true, that it would have needed to be a Democrat.
Well, that's what
if it
we've
went
written
to the
here.
town.
If
I'm losing my mind, frankly.
if you have 6 Republicans and a Democrat resigns, it has to be a Democrat. Does it have to be an unaffiliated? And that's what this italics is about. And
Because
state law is poorly written.
Correct. If it's a true unaffiliated, you go forward with it. But if they're endorsed by the Republicans, you can't with a 6 triggered maximum party. You could do a Democrat or unaffiliated. That's what we did in that particular instance.
Yeah, I just think in the spirit of the law, it had to have been an unaffiliated, which is what we ended up with. And so we ended up in the right place.
Yep.
I'm not sure that we.
Have a great night. Thank you.
I just think it's important that we get that right.
I think,
don't disagree with you.
so I don't think, what we're hearing is that we're not gonna get any further legal clarification. So barring a circumstance in which this goes to court, we're in as good a place as we can be right now. That's where I would land that, given the go-rounds we've had on this, which have been numerous.
Is there a rule on, I mean, I guess I just don't know this, but I wouldn't have thought that you could change your affiliation while you're currently seated on a board.
You sure can. You can change your affiliation whenever you want.
But what if you are in a minority situation or a majority situation, you're teetering the,
Man, I don't know.
what if there are 6 Republicans and then
You go to
a
an
Democrat
unaffili-
becomes a
you could go to an
Republican?
unaffiliated, but you can't, we
Can't go to
can't,
be a
we can't
Republican.
supersede the 6, no matter what.
6 is the max.
So then would
So
you,
we basically trigger some kind of like
you'd be-
replacement clause on the board.
that's what I'm trying to figure out, like if you,
You'd have
if
to,
you-
that person, the individual would have to vacate because you can't have that 6th.
okay,
plus.
so there is
You
some
can have
sort
the
of.
7th,
okay.
8th, and 9th person.
You can't
be of
just
the
do what
same
you
party.
want.
No, you
Okay.
can't just. No.
think what's
You could change to
important-
unaffiliated, but you have a 3-month waiting period on the date of filing.
Gotcha.
What's important for us, though, is that we respect the will of voters. And so when you replace somebody, I think you should replace them with someone from the same ilk. That's what the voters voted for.
We can strive to do that if such a person is available and willing to serve.
Yeah.
Are we comfortable putting this to a vote?
I am.
Frank and John? You keep interrupting him as he's trying to read.
One question, very specific, what was handed out to everyone, there was a specific part about, and that does not seem to. That's the old one. I know the old one had unaffiliated here, and also in step 4, the unaffiliated. Things that we have. I'm trying to follow through the different scenarios. This is the answer to that one there. It's been pulled. Yeah, is that why you pulled it? Because.
That's why legal counsel pulled it. Correct.
So you
And
replace
rectif-
it, you can tell it's not-
That's correct.
The answer is we don't know, because the law doesn't clarify.
I feel like this is as specific as it can get,
Yeah. I think
and
is.
it might
This
just
is
be
best we can do
the
at this
best.
point.
Yeah, let's vote and move on.
I know it was tedious with it, but this is important.
No, I understand that it's important. I'm not trying to do that. I think. My understanding from looking at this and reading that was that that's as good as the current law can get us.
Mhm.
So I accept the legal consultation's opinion that like, that's as much, we have asked the legal team to look at this multiple times to like clarify this, and this is as good as they can get for us. So I'm satisfied that they did their work.
Okay. So we have a motion by, actually, I need you to change your motion, if you would, to also include bylaw 9221.
Sorry, it's all 921. It's a typo.
9211.
It's all typo. 921.
So Kirby and John, are you okay revising your motion to approve policy 9211? Is that what you're saying? And bylaw 9211. Okay. Any more discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous. Okay, moving on to item I on the agenda, public comment. Alicia, would you like to address the board?
Yeah, listening to your stuff, 198 Gillette Road. Going through a lot of your agenda items here, I had some questions. The slide that Mike went through, the pre-K slide, can I get a copy of that or a printout of that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything's attached.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, it's not attached, it wasn't attached with tonight's, was it?
No,
It
it'll
will
be part
be
of
with
the
the
It will
minutes.
be.
With
Yep.
the minutes. Yep.
It'll be part of the minutes.
And I can certainly put some other requests in a letter back to you. So I'd like to request the past 5 years of just the number, the quantity of special needs or, special ed, pre-K, and then the total students for pre-K, just the ratio for the last 5 years. I'd also like to request what is the total cost of the pre-K program for the last 5 years? And what was the total tuition for the last 5 years? And I understand you've got some that are that we're obligated to pay for, and there's going to be some, extra services provided to those people, to those kids. But I'm just looking for a total cost and a total tuition, just some basic numbers. Going through that, so the pre-K program as it stands right now, we've got 3 teachers, and I'm assuming 3 paras, and then you have a speech language person, a psychologist, an OT, and a PT. Is that correct?
Those are already people that are hired. They're not just for the pre-K program, they're for the school.
Is there?
But I
would
don't
you-
know if I'm going to dialogue. Am I allowed to dialogue with question and answer right now, or am I going to ask for reduced to writing?
I was just going to ask, would you be able to provide a split, and I can put that in a request letter?
What do you mean a split?
Like, is it 50% preschool, 50% regular?
Of their time?
Yeah,
I could take a look at that.
okay.
Yeah,
I'll
but put
in-
it in writing,
I'll
please.
put that in a letter.
Thanks.
And the light item transfers, that will be part of tonight's minutes?
Yes.
Okay. And did I hear you correctly? You said you thought you'd be 60 to 70,000 under budget by the end of the year? Did I hear? I wasn't sure if I heard that right.
No, I didn't state that.
What was the 60 to 70,000 dollars? Remember that?
That was the
That was
monthly
probably
transfer for
for
the
legal
legal.
fees, but that wasn't the total
I
budget.
think that was something that Tom asked. Okay, well, I can go back and listen to the recording.
Sure. Yeah, that was for legal fees between the 60 and 70,000.
Okay.
67,000 additional legal fees beyond the Finch report.
Right.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
To the ECS money, I was at that meeting. I was online. My recollection, and I looked, they're not loaded yet. The minutes are not loaded yet. The budget's not loaded yet. My recollection was that, because they had a long conversation about it, but what they ended up with was they were going to put the full amount in as a revenue, but they were reducing the surplus money that was coming in. So it was initially 1.2 million as surplus money coming in as a revenue line item. They reduced that by 100,000, but put the whole amount in as other lines. But in essence, yeah, we were kind of saying their intent was to continually reduce that surplus line item, because that's not true surplus anymore. We kind of built it up over the years when we were running through COVID. So it got kind of out of control what they were thinking. So they're trying to back that off some. So they reduced that by 100,000, but put the full amount of that ECS money in. That was my recollection. We could double check that when they get those things uploaded. I will get you a letter requesting all that, and that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask for a point of clarification
Sure.
on that? Well, my question is just regarding, you asked for the number of students for the past 5 years. I know that the number of students can vary throughout the school year. So like, are we going to recommend that you just take like the maximum number of students from at one time throughout the school year? Right, because there's the difference between where you start and where you end and yada, yada, yada. So like, in terms of reporting on that for the sake of clarity, can we assume that that will be the maximum number of special ed students that were in the school at one time?
Sure. It'll be the maximum ratio. If the numbers are too small and would be identifiable, I can't provide the specific number by record, but I could provide ratios of what those were.
I know we've gone back and forth about how to like quantify that
Yeah.
and like when those numbers get pulled throughout the year.
It would
So I
be
just wanted to
it'd
make that
be EOI.
clarification public.
I would
Right.
recommend EOI because then you get a true sense.
Can
of
you tell the
full-
rest of us what EOI is?
End of
again?
year.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item J, reports. Ed Advance would have been by Penny, and she's not here. Do we have anything for Ed Advance to talk about?
No, nothing.
Okay, we have no report on Ed Advance. How about School Facility Utilization Task Force?
I will give a quick update. So since the last Board of Ed meeting, we've held 2 additional meetings and 1 public informational meeting. The public informational meeting content from May 19th was the same as the first meeting, and we had about 10 to 12-ish attendees that day, some larger new folks. So that's where we were with those. Currently, we are reviewing possible site configurations for a variety of potential outcomes in relation to our building, including what it would take to house the in-district programming needs and expected enrollment capacity over the next 10 years, as well as just kind of some variations in there. Where we're at is like really trying to understand how we can narrow down all of the options available to us to figure out what we can explore more deeply. What she's looking at right now, outside of the sort of layouts that she's put together for each of the building possibilities, is a deeper look at the feasibility of building on any of the sites, as well as phasing of the construction work. So for example, if we wind up doing any construction work, how will that impact the current student experience? If we start doing renovations at one school, do we need to displace students? What does that look like at the timing, and so on and so forth? So we should have more information about that on the next couple of meetings. Outside of SPA's work, we've kicked off a survey to the faculty and staff that are currently employed in district to get their input on what's working. We've already started to see some responses for that, so hopefully we'll have some readouts on that. We will be doing a community survey that will be compiled and distributed once we are down to fewer options, so we can get more concrete feedback from the town. We are also looking to identify a deadline for our work within the next 1 to 2 meetings. We'll be adding additional meetings in July and August. Dates will be announced at the next meeting. And right now, our next meeting will be Monday, June 8th. It is listed as a special meeting. That is just because we needed to move the date. There's nothing particularly special about it, just regular programming from there. That's it for right now. A lot of information online for anybody who's listening. Go check it out or ask us questions. Yes, sir.
How is the consultant's scope of work meshing with the budget that we have? Are we adding to their? I know there's been a lot of additional considerations as you start turning over rocks,
Yeah.
little more ideas pop up. Are we still within their budget that we gave them? Are they looking for more money? Or are we good to go? Do you know
So-
that?
Jeff looks like he's pulling his microphone up to speak about something. They have not spoken to me about this. I will say that one thing that is not in their scope of work that needs to be determined, whether or not the town wants to spend more money on it, is if we want to engage any sort of civil engineer to like get a deeper analysis of what's going on at the site, because that's not in the scope of work. So for example, if we're looking at options to like do some work up here at Antolini, we would need to understand what's going on from a civil engineering perspective. So that's like a TBD, but it sounds like the task force is interested in understanding that before we make any recommendation to the town, because if we can't do the work, then the recommendation kind of sucks, but we haven't we're trying to figure out if we can narrow down the options a little bit further with publicly available information before we ask for any money to do any site evaluations for that. One component of that is I'm meeting tomorrow with Mike Lucas. I'm pulling that name out of my hat, but from the town, and Michelle, to kind of go over some of the conditions for at New Hartford Elementary in particular, to see what information is not publicly available, but what we think the town might know about what the site conditions are. Jeff, do you have anything to add regarding the costs for SPA?
No, the civil engineer component, but no, they have not requested nor invoiced any other additional, and within their contract, it states that they would have to request that first to be approved. So can't be done without my knowledge.
She does come up here a lot, which I appreciate.
I know.
She's doing great work.
It just seems like we're adding a lot of meetings, which added to their involvement. Just didn't know.
So
Is there-
that's a great question. So the work where we are right now within the process is that her work is like, the work that she set out to do is mostly done. We are adding meetings because we, as a task force, need to collect more information that is not necessarily information that she would be giving us to help make sure that we can make a recommendation. So I'm right now in the process of gathering information from all the task force members about what additional information they want in order to feel good about making a recommendation. So some of those things regarding are like around the pre-K program, and what that looks like. Some of those things are around like, what are some of the operational costs at the schools right now? Are there any, like, if we wound up closing one of the buildings, like what is the cost per power and all of that electricity right then, so we can understand the cost savings to that and kind of like have some of those numbers behind that. Those are just some examples of data points that we don't need SPA to help us get to, but that we want to understand before anybody feels comfortable making a decision. So hopefully the extra meetings will not be a lot of extra work for her. If anything, it's giving her more time to kind of work through some of the feasibility site fit work that she's trying to scramble through right now.
Thank you.
No problem.
That was an excellent update, Kristen. And then following up on one item and then a second item. So we had previously discussed pre-K, and then sharing some information here and then taking it back to the task force. Obviously, tonight's meeting had a lot of information on pre-K. So just, continue to be a liaison on that front. And then another topic that's come up is a couple of times, and I said I'd bring back to this group, is around shared services. There was a little bit of dialogue previously about shared services. I know some research was done on shared services. And so similar to, just bringing it to the board, there's a question there about shared services. So I'd like to be able to get some more information from Jeff and the team to be able to take back to the task force. So I wanted to raise that here and make sure that we're okay with that. And then I'll follow up offline, just as I did, or Kristen as well did on the pre-K front.
So I think you're asking again, does anybody on the board have any objections to sharing information that Jeff might have or his administration might have on shared services? Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Then I'll follow up with you, Jeff, and can keep you in the loop, Kristen.
You had said, Kristen, that there's some surveys out with the staff. Is there any thought to surveys to the community?
Yes, we will do a survey to the community. Right now, the thought is we wanted to be a little bit further down the path in terms of narrowing down the options we are looking at to really get feedback about the path that people want to take with like better concrete options. Right now, we're still looking at like 8 to 10 realistic options, and it's like too much to put into a survey. So the goal is to, get us to a place where we have fewer options, get a survey out there. We've got a plan in terms of like where it will be out. It'll be available digitally. It will be available in various locations around town. Hopefully trying to make it easy to get as much feedback as possible. But again, not ready to deploy that survey until we have more
I guess
more
my,
data
yeah.
answering.
And the reason I ask is, I've been to most of the meetings. I've gone to the public information hearings. And our attendance hasn't been great, right? I think between two of them, there were probably 20 community members, right, between two of those sessions. And I guess to even follow up on Tom's point, and I agree with you, that to make a recommendation without understanding any of the civil information and leading down a recommendation that isn't realistic, you don't want to do that. But I also would think that we should get some input from the town before we spend any more money, right, to even use a civil engineer or geotech to see if there's any appetite for the dollar values that have been put out there.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll take it back to the committee again. Everyone's just trying to figure out how to get the most bang for our buck on any of the community input. I think, especially given just sort of the varying engagement levels.
To that point, two topics. So one, which the survey itself that was part of the previous task force meeting, which could be shared. And so just to make sure it's clear for everyone, that survey was more of an educator's perspective on some of the potential kind of task force topics at a high level. So it was not, soliciting input related to any of the options on the table. And so it's a different type of survey in terms of what's going out to the educators versus what we're going to the community. And the second piece, in terms of engaging the community, I would say across, I don't want to speak for the task force, but I'll say even for myself, one of the pieces that I replied back in terms of additional information, the report that was the facilities condition report that was mentioned, and that potential 29 million and 110,000 of which will be tackled through the ARPA funding. Both for me as a task force member, I know for other task force members, and I would think for the community, understanding what kind of that status quo is and that, sequencing of what actually is needed to win in terms of the amount of deferred maintenance and what needs to be addressed. And so as we go to the community, I don't want to speak for the task force, but I would not want to present to the community that a do nothing option is $0, given the amount of deferred maintenance, the aging facilities, et cetera. So I do think that as we think about engaging the community, making sure that as a task force, there's been some discussion about what these range of options might look like, and then not presenting that there's a do nothing $0 and a minimal input, no financial input options available. Sure.
Is there an option to provide us with what the questions were that were given to the staff?
Yeah, sure.
Just a copy of the.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, I was just looking to see if it's posted yet. It's not posted, but I have a hard copy that I could share, scan and share.
Can you just provide kind of what the range of topics were in those questions?
It was a 12-question survey, included both multiple choice questions as well as open-ended questions to follow up for various things. The idea getting we could get data as well as get any clarification points for that. So it's sort of like what's working in the schools right now, what's not working in the schools right now, with a variety of categories. What do you think would be beneficial from like a go forward perspective? Like that's sort of the nature of the surveys, but we can share the questions with you afterwards.
And for an important point, if I may, we employ 55, or so, that's approximate, probably 55 people out of the 110. About 50% of those people work and live in town. So I don't want their opinions to be dismissed as they don't live in town. They live and work here.
No.
Very proudly to say that. So.
That is one of the questions is like understanding their role in the school, how they work in the school, and whether or not they're residents in the school. And I think there might be one about whether or not they have kids in the school at the time right now. Just to kind of, again, make sure we're slicing the data in that way.
I had to look at the actual wording that was, there were many.
We don't have to,
Yeah.
we can get on.
There was a subcommittee that was responsible for that, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. CABE report.
All right, so there are a couple events coming up. So one is the 16th annual CABE Summer Leadership Conference. That's August 6th. They have a newsletter that you can just sign up for. So if you are interested in getting it, you can just go on their website and get access to it. So the delegate assembly is November 19th. They have the CABE and CAPS convention. That's November 20th and 21st. And then the new board member orientation is December 10th. That's the next one. I think it's twice a year. So they have an upcoming webinar. That's Connecticut school funding changes. That's on June 17th. There's a link on the newsletter. And then there's a couple finance webinars that are coming up. There's various dates and there's a lot of them. But if you're interested in any of the financial related series, then you can just also go on the newsletter and select those as well. So that's all.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Kirby. Can I get a motion to enter executive session at 9:01? Motion by Frank, second by John. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, and invite our Superintendent Sousa into executive session. That good? Thank you.
I'm only gonna make it without you.